in and through every aspect of being throughout the entire universe. The very essence of unwavering peace and joy and love. Do people really believe in God? 90% of Americans say they do. But do you think the majority of those 90% actually do? I'm asking you. 90% of all Americans say they believe in this higher power. Do you really think they do? I find it hard to believe that they actually do. And when I say they, I actually mean we. I don't like to have conversations about they and them without throwing us into the pot with it. I feel that the mass majority of all people, religious or not, on a spiritual path or not, in unity or not, probably don't actually believe in God. Now, regardless of all the various religious takes on what God is and whatever that God is for them, I still don't believe they believe in their interpretation of God, whatever that interpretation is. And I base this conclusion on one simple observation, that if we did actually believe in God, the world would be a very different place. Religion would look very different than it does today and it has historically. Politics, all the people in politics that claim to believe in God, politics would look very different, from my opinion, if all these people actually believed in God. And I even believe unity itself would look very different if people actually believed in God. And I think I might be able to explain what I mean here in a couple of different ways, and at least I'm going to attempt it. Last week, during the 40th celebration of Norma and Jack here in Unity, Jack put up this slide, which is a artistic rendering of the two great commandments, and it's actually just outside these two doors. It's been with us since the very first church on Pearl Street 40 years ago. It's hard to read in that picture, so I thought I'd put up where we get it from in Matthew so we can read that together in chapter 22. Jesus is being asked, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it. You should love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." The second commandment is what we often call, does anybody know what we call that? Don't let me down here, people. The golden rule. Thank you. I was scared there. Whew. We pass the first step, we get to move on to the next part of the talk. This is what we call the golden rule. Most of us are probably taught this at a very early age, probably even in school. It doesn't have to be religious necessarily. And as I'm sure many of you know, the golden rule is actually found in almost all the, or if not all, the major religions. You've seen various posters that have the golden rule in different translations from all the religions. We actually sell some in the bookstore if you want to go over there and buy one after the service. No plug there. I'm not going to read each one of these because it would take too much time, but that's the gist of it. You can glance at them as I'm talking. So let me ask you this. Do we all live the golden rule? I see some heads shaking no. Well, let's refine this a little bit so we can get specific here. Do you think all religious people live the golden rule? But yet it's in every religion. Shouldn't all religious people be living the golden rule? It's found in all these major traditions, but yet we're not living it. So just for a moment, I'm going to ask you to do something. I want you to forget about all the aspects of spirituality. I want you to forget about affirmations. I want you to forget about denials. I want you to forget about mantras. I want you to forget about breathing techniques. Forget about prayer wheels, vision boards. Forget about dream catchers. Forget about holy water. Forget about crystal energy. Forget prayer and meditation and yoga. Forget all that. Forget samadhi. Forget this concept of enlightenment or transcendentalness or self-realization. Just forget about spirituality altogether and everything that is entailed in that. The golden rule is a first grade playground, share your toys in the sandbox, fundamental teaching we receive. If we can't get that concept, the rest of it is planted in shallow soil. We want to talk about the meaning of life. We want to talk about transcendental spiritual experiences, but yet we have not even begun to understand the golden rule which precedes all of that. Step 1. We think we can skip that to jump to all of these things. And I love how Islam, which is on the bottom left corner here, stresses the importance of this fundamental rule. I'm going to blow it up there so we can read it. It actually says, none of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. More simply put, how can someone call themselves a believer if they're not even living this very fundamental first step? God is in and through all things, and until we live a life from that understanding, what are we doing? Where are we going? What are we trying to get to? How often we skip the more basic spiritual steps so we can try to get to something deep and esoteric. Stuff that sounds really neat, sounds really advanced, and sounds really spiritual. How can we say we believe in God and not bother to practice the fundamental step required just to acknowledge God? Lip service is not belief. This teaching of the golden rule showed up in all the major religions. Do we assume that was just some sort of weird coincidence? Don't you think something that showed up in all the major religions should grab our attention? Don't you think that possibly we should take it serious? I think someone should actually pay for this billboard. It should be in every city. If you can't read it, it says, "That love thy neighbor thing, I meant that." Quoted by God. So I had a very fascinating experience. Many of you know that I worked for the MGM Corporation, the MGM Grand Hotel to begin with, then I moved on to the MGM Resorts Corporation. And the beautiful thing is about the leadership of that corporation, they actually have a spiritual undertone that they don't outwardly admit, but actually sort of permeates the corporation through the trainings we had to do about diversity, inclusivity, and bringing joy into the workplace. And they wouldn't say the word love, but love into the workplace, these type of things. There was this undertone of spirituality that was always trying to be disseminated into the employees of the workplace, which I thought was a beautiful thing. So I was actually at one of these trainings. They were mandatory trainings we had to go through every so often. I was at one of these trainings, and the question came up. It was posed to the people in the class. What do you think are one of the primary rules we should have to make this an enjoyable experience for everyone in the workplace? Some different ideas were thrown out, and finally someone said, well, it's simply the golden rule. If we practice the golden rule as employees, we'd make this an enjoyable experience for everyone here. And when that person said that, a gentleman, sort of frustrated, said, that doesn't work for me because I'm a masochist. Let that settle in for a minute to figure out where. Yes, we're in Las Vegas. I know, Las Vegas. So what is a masochist, you might ask, if you're not familiar with that? Well, the definition is that it's a person who enjoys an activity that appears to be painful or tedious. Now, this person, this gentleman, actually thought that because they enjoy pain, they were exempt from the golden rule. That it didn't work for them, didn't apply to them, because obviously you shouldn't inflict pain upon another person, and the golden rule says do unto others. And I found it absolutely fascinating that this highly intelligent person didn't understand the very basic concept of the golden rule. So just in case there are others out there that may not understand the basic concept of the golden rule, I'm going to try to clarify it us here so we're all on the same page. So here's the example. If you enjoy jumping into a frozen lake, the golden rule is not saying that you should throw other people into a frozen lake. Do you get that? If you like jumping in a frozen lake, the golden rule is not saying throw other people in a frozen lake. I thought that was very common knowledge. You have your own particular way of experiencing love and joy. We all do. The golden rule is about sharing love and joy. It is not about sharing how I, as an individual, experience love and joy and imposing that upon somebody else. It's about sharing the experience of love and joy. The golden rule is simply saying, share the essence of love and joy with others. See them as part of you. Also, it says, do unto others, all creatures. It does not say, do unto only other humans. It says, do unto others, which includes all creatures. And of course, a pack of meerkats. Come on. That's cute. There's got to be a family photo, but it's cute nonetheless. This is one of the first steps. The golden rule is one of the first steps in just recognizing the essence of God. To live it and not just talk and think about it, which is our fifth of our 5 basic unity principles. Knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. We must live them. Our founders, the Fillmores, saw this as a problem, teaching all this stuff, and people are pontificating about it and thinking about it and theorizing about it. And they're like, well, at some point you actually have to live it. So they made it one of our spiritual principles. You must live them. Now I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here to try to help make this point. I think very, very few people truly believe in hell. And you're probably going to disagree with me because people disagreed with me after the first service, so I imagine it's going to happen again. And I mean the hellfire and brimstone, Dante's Inferno, dogmatic religion concept of an afterlife hell of suffering. I believe maybe only a handful of people on this planet truly believe that exists. A place of unimaginable suffering. Because think about it. If one really believed such a place existed as a possibility after death, how would they then live this life? If they truly believed that place existed as a possibility after death, what would they do in this life? I think there is no way they would ever commit a sin. I believe there is no way they would ever even think a sin if they truly believed in an afterlife hell. I believe they would never even come near to a sin. They wouldn't even live in the same zip code as a sin if they thought what was going on there. They would move out of that zip code if they truly believed in this concept of an afterlife hell. This person would probably be in church every waking moment of their entire life, studying the Bible and making darn sure they unmistakably met every requirement to avoid such a place. No way could they watch TV. There is no way they could watch TV. There is no way they could follow the news. There's probably no way they could even talk to another human being just on the off chance that a little bit of sin rubs off on them. If they truly believed in this place, so incredibly miserable as it's described in the afterlife. There's no chance they allowed any sin in their life. And if somebody truly, truly, truly believed in an afterlife hell, all the things they would have to do to support that belief would probably cause them to live a saintly life. And if they're not living a saintly life, I don't believe they actually believe in this concept of an afterlife hell. A saintly life, free of judgment, because you're not allowed to judge. Absolutely free of judgment. Absolutely free of doubt in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely free of hypocrisy in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely free of hatred, because that wouldn't be allowed. Completely free of sin in every way, shape, and form. If one truly believed in such a place as hell, they would end up living a life in service of nothing but absolute love and peace. That would be the only way to guarantee they're not going to that place, just as Jesus said they would have to do. But that is why I think afterlife hell doesn't exist and cannot exist. Primarily because it would only take a short while before God realized it is a useless teaching tool. And it wouldn't take long before the devil also got bored with the endless line of people coming in the front door. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to do hell. That's the Apple store. But the people look like they're in hell, so I thought it worked. Both the devil and God would have to agree at some point, this whole process is going nowhere. We are not accomplishing anything without actually being able to visit hell, right? Me as an individual, without me being able to just go spend a day down there to get the reality of how unimaginably miserable it would be for eternity. I can't gain a concept of that. My brain can't wrap its head around eternity, period, let alone suffering that I can't even imagine beyond any suffering I've had here. And so, because we cannot actually imagine this place as hell, it's impossible to conceive of how miserable it'd be. We will not make the changes in this life to make sure we stay out of there. And so everyone's just going to be funneling into this place. That's why it cannot exist and does not exist. And this brings us full circle as to why I feel most of us don't truly believe in God. It is so hard for us to actually comprehend or even conceive of something as amazing and powerful as God. We take for granted that we think we believe, but we have not stopped to really think about the majesty, the brilliance, and the beauty of God. It's nearly impossible for us to fathom this concept of God. It's almost impossible to realize how important God would be in our lives, how absolutely necessary God is in our lives. And I have come to this realization several times in my own life. I've come to points in my life where I stop myself and I say, Shad, do you really believe in God? Not just assume you believe in God, not just kind of believe in God, not just say you believe in God, not just tell others you believe in God, but do you really believe in God, this universal intelligence, this infinitely beautiful and powerful expanse that moves in and through all things and is right here, right now? Do you truly believe that? Or are you just pretending you do? And I ask myself that question, and when I've asked myself that question, I always come to this. If I absolutely, unequivocally believed all that I say I believe about God, what would my life really look like? My life is truly the example of what I actually believe. Most of us believe in money. We spend most of our time in service of money. There's no doubt we believe in money. We believe in gravity. We believe if you step out on a highway, it's dangerous. We have beliefs that our lives reflect very clearly. But if I absolutely, unequivocally believed all that I say I believe about God, what would my life really look like? Would it look like the life I'm currently living, or would it look a little bit different? To ask yourself this question in the most raw and real fashion can be very transformational for your life. To pause and take a moment and say, I'm going to take time with this question. I'm going to get honest with myself about this question before I move forward. I'm just going to hit pause on my life before I take another step. I'm going to say, I want to establish if this is true for me. I'm not just going to go saying I believe. I want to get down to the core. Do I truly believe? We spend most of our lives simply being bounced from one distraction to the next. One desire to the next, one relationship to the next, one book to the next, one website to the next, one Facebook post to the next, one news story to the next, one tragedy to the next. But if I truly believed, just beyond faith, but into a place of actually knowing that there is this universal intelligence that's moving in and through all things, knowing that this pure love, this pure joy, this pure essence, this pure bliss, this pure life, this pure creativity, and this intelligence not only created me, but is expressing as me. Can you wrap your head around how deep you have to go to truly embrace that? Better yet, it didn't just create me, it created all things, and is expressing as all things right now. When I step out of my house in the morning and I see that flower and I see that rock and I see that dog and I see the grass and I see the crack in the concrete and I see the sky and I see the skyscraper, do I really recognize this is all God in expression? If I truly believed in God, that would have to be the case. What would our lives look like if we stepped into that place that went just from thinking about to knowing deep in our core? How would we change our behavior? How would we change our relationships, our actions and our interactions and reactions to what people say? How would we change our dreams and our goals and the things we go after? How would that change our very next step? If I just did this pause on life and I said, before I take another next step, I want to establish, do I truly believe in God? And if I truly believed in God, what does my next step look like? What does my next decision look like? Well, if nothing else, it would most certainly make two very specific changes to your life. One, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. Two, love your neighbor as yourself. If we truly believed in the infinite awareness we call God, we couldn't help but do this. That is why I question whether we actually believe in God. If we're not doing this, how can we say we are believing in God? And when we started to do this, we would realize that this is all we never ever needed to do. All the things we were chasing, all the books we were reading, all the lectures we were listening to, all the places we were going that were spiritual, that were esoteric, that were this or that, if we actually started doing this, we'd realize this was all we ever needed to do. God is all that is. How could we desire anything else? God is all that is. How could we think we need anything else? This is a meme I came across. It says, if God is all you have all you need. John 14:8. Well, I never accept what I read on the internet to be factual, so I looked up John 14:8, and it actually says this. Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. Same basic concept, but I like to be factual in my presentation, or legalistic, as Erna calls me. To desire or need anything other than God is to believe in an illusion, in a facade, in a mirage, to believe in an emptiness that can only ultimately leave us feeling empty. What we think we want is not what we really want. What we think we need is not what we really need. Right now we're studying the book Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady in the class I'm teaching, and this is what she had to say. Take right hold of God with an unwavering faith. Begin and continue to rejoice and thank Him that you have, not will have, the desires of your heart, never losing sight of the fact that the desire is the thing itself in incipiency, in its origin. If the good were not already yours in the invisible realm of supply, you could not, by any possibility, desire it. We don't want what we think we want. What we really want is the essence of God that lies behind what we think we want. We don't want a nicer car. We want to feel more power and more comfort. The essence behind the concept of a nicer car. We don't want a better relationship. We want to feel love and we want to feel passion. The love and passion of God that are behind what we thought was a relationship. We don't want a better job. We want to feel valued. But for some reason, we decided a job is where we feel valued. We don't want more money. We want more joy and freedom. But for some reason, we've attached that to money. But it is mistakenly the things we think we want that grab our attention, instead of the essence behind all things. The essence that is the fundamental draw or desire of anything. All we can ever desire is for more God in our lives. But yet we put the things of the world in place between us and that end goal. There are no evil, broken, sinful, or even bad people on this planet. We are all beings of light who are simply distracted. We're just a little bit distracted. And I love to think about it that way because that sounds able to be fixed. Something that is broken or sinful or evil or dark sounds almost impossible to do something about. But people that are just a little bit distracted sounds very doable. We just need more focus. We're just a little bit distracted. And what is the root problem behind our global climate crisis? What is our problem behind our political crisis, behind a financial crisis, behind our segregation crisis, our income equality crisis, or any other crisis you can name or put on the map? What is behind all of it? I believe it is misplaced desire resulting from a lack of authentic and true belief in God. What do you truly want? Are you praying and visioning for a cruise, or better health, better finances, a better job, a better relationship? Or are you praying and visioning for freedom, for peace, for joy, for wholeness, and lasting contentment that can only come from a more authentic relationship with the divine? It says it this way in Matthew. This is the Master Christ speaking. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? This is a much longer quote, but I took just the first portion here because I think it makes the point. Do you really think life is about the house, the car, the clothes, the fine dining, or whatever else we attach to it? Do we really think it is about keeping up with the Joneses in our neighbor's house, in our neighbor's car, in our neighbor's job, and what they've got going on in their lives, or whatever's happening on Facebook? Jesus is saying, come on, people, really? Do you think this is what it is about? The surface material things that have never brought you joy or happiness at any point in time in your life. Lasting joy and happiness. Do you really think that is what life is about? Because at some point, it should hit you, maybe that's not it. And if that's not it, then what is? And Jesus is saying, I know what it is. And when you're ready, you will too. If we truly, and I can't emphasize that word enough, if we truly believed in God, what then is life? Is it about the things we worry about, struggle, and fight for on a daily basis? Is it about all the conflict and drama that we take with us everywhere we go? Is it about this, that, him, her, this situation, those people? Is it about me and mine? This week, I'm not going to leave you with a solution. As a minister, I've come to realize, and I know Jack and Santisha have had the same experience, people will come to a minister and say, I want an answer to this question. I want a solution to this problem. And when a solution is handed to you or told to you, does that change your life? I guarantee you, up until this point in your life, I don't care how old you are, you have already heard the solution to every one of your problems you'll ever have. I guarantee you I'd put my life savings of $4 on it. You've already heard the solution, but you have not revealed it from within yourself. I can tell you solutions all day long. I can tell you my theories on solutions all day long, but until you have revealed it within yourself, it is pointless. It falls on empty, deaf ears. I've had people come to me with a certain problem, whatever it was, and say, what do you think about this? And I say, oh, I think you should do this, maybe this, do that. Yeah, and they do nothing about it. 6 months later, they come back and they say, I found the solution. What do they tell me? Exactly what I said 6 months ago. Not that I was right, is the point that is, a solution is useless until it's been revealed through you. It takes 6 months for them to discover it within themselves as a solution that'll work for their life. So I'm going to really challenge you to take some time to go deep into this question this week and process it. Don't just jump to the conclusion. Go deep into it. Don't just say, I do believe in God. This is easy. I get this. I don't want to say, if I absolutely, unequivocally believed all that I say I believe about God, what would my life really look like? What would it really look like? If it already looks like that, great. But be honest with yourself if it doesn't. And that is the truth as I experience it. Thank you. When it's this quiet in a room, either everyone hated what you just said, or they are really thinking about it. It's usually the first one in my case. I'm just kidding. All right, we're going to take an offering for Unity now. And when we do that, I'd like to remind you, an offering is not a giving away of something or trying to support a structure or a building. It is an investment into a spiritual movement. It's an investment into our own spiritual growth and doing something about the consciousness on this planet. We are investing in that today. We also have our fundraising drive. We've got the thermometer on the wall over here if you have not seen it, moving towards remodeling our fellowship area, which is going on smoothly. We just got the rest of the floor finished. We're going to be moving to the kitchen soon. So if you can help us with that, we greatly appreciate that. So as we take our offerings into our hands, we're going to bless them with a statement, and now it's on the screen so we can all do it together. If you'll join me in saying, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive because I give. And we have the opportunity to listen to Altazar sharing his many talents with us yet again. Merry and many.
Well, before I get into a song that transcends hell and moves us more towards heaven on earth, I'd like to make a brief announcement. You've probably seen these pink flyers on the bulletin board around and in the lobby up front. This Saturday night, October 6th at 7:15, I and Erina Groverland and Ira Liss and Jeff Toon are putting on a show called Mystic Lovers Rock and Jazz. So for those of you who want to experience the great classics of rock and jazz from the 20th century, including Sinatra, Elvis, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and others, it's going to be a fun jamboree, and we invite you all. Tickets are available in the bookstore or with me up front in the lobby, as well as online at mysticloversrockandjazz.com. Maestro, here's a little sample. Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart feels like it's reached a joyful peak, and I seem to find a happiness so sweet when I meditate and find the God I seek. Yes, heaven, I'm in heaven, and the cares that hung around me like a stray seem to vanish like the fog on a sunny day. When I meditate, do yoga and I pray, I love to climb a mountain and reach the highest peak, but it doesn't fill me half as much as the love from God I see. And I love to go out fishing in a river or a creek, but the joy I feel from peace within comes from the God I see. Friends, let's celebrate peace and community. We'll dance and sing in gratitude and unity. As heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart feels like it's reached a joyful peak, and I seem to find a happiness so sweet when I meditate and find the God I see. Let's do it. Yes, heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart feels like it's reached a joyful peak, and I seem to find a happiness so sweet when I meditate and find the God I see. Yes, meditate and love the people I meet. And find the God I see. Thank you.
That's Altazar. That's the Altazar experience. So yeah, be a part of that. Join the show he's got going on. And this concludes our service, but if you're here for the first time, we would like to welcome you, and we thank you for choosing us this Sunday. And if you have any questions or comments, I'm going to be in the fellowship hall, which is over here to your left after the service, to talk to you. Norma, Jack, and Santisha are not here this week. They're actually in New York City helping my niece celebrate her graduation from her school in New York City. So that's very exciting for them. But you can still talk to me. I'll still be there. I'm special. My mom tells me special, so I hope you agree with that. All right. We're going to rise and face the center aisle and have our closing song. I like to just hold that there for a second and put the earth in the center of this room, surrounded in light, surrounded in peace. See it as so. Amen.